Okay, the application of the wisdom of the art of war reflects the reality of the truth and the wisdom of Sun Tzu. When I started reading this initially, I've been very impressed by really the wisdom in which this general would explain, how you go about it. It's almost like a blueprint of how you should do. When we were talking about earlier in our previous classes, the idea of developing a template or a blueprint, the way that we should go forth in doing things and understanding and training ourselves, this is self-training, this is meditation, is through establishing and understanding the blueprints of almost a blueprint of life, which means is that it depends on what you want to do. If you are of a religious minded, if you're of a Buddhist thought, then your template or the blueprint that you would use in order to go forward would be based upon the teachings of what the Buddha himself says. So Buddha has said, so it's necessary for us to be able to get a deeper understanding. What exactly is he saying? Why is he saying what he's saying? And the same light, the same blueprint that you can see in a lot other traditions. The thing that distinguishes Buddhism from other isms is not the idea of the practice per se, but the wisdom, the profound wisdom that the Buddha taught. And this is where a lot separates. But when you go into in relationship to, how we should conduct ourselves, what we should do, there are a lot of similarities. And this is what I look at when I was reading The Art of War, that I was thinking it was almost like following, what's his name, the Oracle of Omaha, what's his name, Warren Buffett. If you wanted to know how to invest in whatnot, then it would be advised to follow somebody who is good at what they do, right? That was Warren Buffett in terms of financial. If you want to find out, how you achieve or how you overcome things, then you should follow those people who give instructions in relationship to how you view or how you understand the function of the world. The clarity in which Sun Tzu actually explains, himself in The Art of War and Peace. And what grasped me as being very important is that his stance that the superior general is the one who has capability of winning a war without fighting. So he has come to the conclusion that conflict is not. That's why I call this also a study on the idea of conflict resolution, because there's nowhere in here that it says that by having superior arms or whatnot, that where we will be able to overcome things. It's not superior arms, it's superior thinking, right? So here, what we're talking about and what we should understand well is that whenever any type of problem arises, the resolution or the ability to resolve the problem is because of superior thinking. So now what does that mean, right? And this is what we're going to. So the application of the wisdom, the art of war and peace reflects reality of the truth and the wisdom of Sun Tzu. These are lessons and wisdoms that we see in people. We do see these. We do see these in other people. And we wonder to ourselves, it's not taught in school. When you go to school or whatnot, the basic template of how, how what we do is going to be able to fit within the society. And the idea is you're a piece of the puzzle and you're supposed to fit in to that puzzle, right? The art of War and Peace is thinking beyond just the puzzle and putting a meaning. And you remember we were talking about, actually this was with Ani, we were talking about words and things as that of being symbols, right? And they're only symbols which behind them exists a meaning, right? Meaning is not something that's simple. You don't simply understand the meaning. It's something that you have to understand, investigate, so that you know in its entirety what the symbol is trying to represent. So then you have it also, you know, when you understand that, then you have the capability of being able to utilize the symbol. Say that's where you have the difference between good writers and great writers, right? Good logicians and bad logicians, good people who are able to compose and those who can't compose, has a lot to do with not only understanding in an entirety the symbol and the meaning behind the symbol, but are able to utilize those meanings in relationship to how one interprets what the world will be, right? So in this case, Sun Tzu, and one of his sayings underneath, he will say that that, you know, to your best capability, utilize the words or the understanding that, you know, is going to be spoken here, but whatever you can do in order to go beyond that, do it. And we were talking about this the other day, Anila, and that had to do with the saying that in order to and it's a I think it's a Japanese saying, in order to show where the moon is, you need the finger, right, in order to point in the direction of the moon. But don't mistake the finger for the moon, right? And some people only stop, you know, their insight into the teachings or understanding or whatnot, stop at the finger, right? Those who have the capability of being able to mold that into something else, into something personal, right? It becomes that personal molding, so that there's no distinction between the symbol, right? But the symbol and the actual meaning is what you call, this is what I consider as being true meditation, right? This is practice, right? And when you practice it and you understand it to be true, because you've gone through all the steps necessary in order to establish it as to be true, and you understand that not from the point of view of just a symbol, but in terms of the word, then what happens is that one's understanding, one's faith becomes something that is unshakable, right? You know it's right. Not only do you know it's right, but you have the capability of proving it's right because you contemplated it. So this is where we come to the idea of insight into the teachings, and not only the insight, but also realization. Realization is not something that happens. You're sitting under the tree, you're meditating, and poof, you know, from the force of sitting in a position that you've attained, you know, realization. Realization is something that it can be in small incremental growth. It's like you're looking at something, you understand the meaning, and you go, oh, well, you've changed something right there. That old feeling that you get from reading it is something that shows that something has changed. You know, maybe you won't look at what you used to look at in the same way anymore because of that old feeling. That's a realization. Right? It doesn't have to be big. You know, every time you have a note that this is a realization. So these are lessons and wisdoms that we see in people. And in some cases, our own actions. Some cases, in our own actions, if we're practicing it properly, we ourselves will be able to understand more. if you have the incentive, right? If you develop the incentive to learn more from something that interests you, right? Then this is a form of internal growth toward that particular, or the knowledge, or attaining greater knowledges. This is what I call right now, what we call is the apprenticeship, right? Right now we're in the position of the apprenticeship. What does the apprentice do? The apprentice starts to learn the symbols, right? That's what the apprentice does. The master is the one who's gone beyond just the symbols and has the capability in order to utilize the symbols into different ways. They understand the deeper meaning about, about what's going on.